Hello, Dr. Myra Miller of My Living Sanctuary, and I would like to talk about transgenerational trauma, oppression, and the high risk for chronic health conditions and weakened immunity in Black, Indigenous, and people of color BIPOC communities. So, as we know, for this year, 2020 has been challenging on multiple levels, and some have considered these challenges as opportunities for 2020 vision, clarity regarding our definition of self and perception of the world that we live in. Unresolved wounding and trauma have come forth for healing. Oppression, suppression, and subjugation, including systemic racism, have cycled to revisit the original wounds and trauma of genocide, slavery, colonization, and other acts against humanity. Unfortunately, the depths of transgenerational trauma spans over thousands of years. It did not just begin with colonization. Oppression and violence are often cyclic, with the oppressor becoming the oppressed and the oppressed becoming the oppressor. From my ancestors, I understand that harm done to others is harm done to oneself. The work is for the healing of humanity, to bring light into this plane, to clearly see that there is only one. The concept of other is illusion, which seeds micro and macro aggressions. Emotional wounding, pain, and trauma can occur from intentional and unintentional mind, body, and soul aggressions, heart-soul aggressions. Experiences as a child, growing up, the backpacks that we're given, whether it's privilege or oppression, beliefs we were consciously or unconsciously taught, prejudice, supremacy, hatred, acts of violence, racism, racial bias, internalized racism, and internalized colonization all affect the core of our being. The healing of individuals, families, relationships, communities, nations, and the environment, the world, require repairing the damage of this pain. Until the damage is repaired, it will continue to show up as intentional and unintentional aggressions against humanity. Oppression, suppression, and subjugation, including alienation, wounding, trauma, grief, and loss of the human experience, impacts health, immunity, purpose, creativity, and the ability to manifest prosperity. It can be felt as emotional pain, showing up as depression, anger, anxiety, feeling numb or disconnected, and in other ways that mentally, spiritually, physically affect us and our interactions. Unresolved pain also acts as underlying stressor that increases the stress of daily life, negatively contributing to hormonal and metabolic imbalances, inflammation, stress-related chronic health conditions, abuse, and addiction. Last year, October 2019, the CDC, Center for Disease Control, had conducted a study and found that 6 in 10 adults in the United States have chronic disease, and 4 in 10 of them have 2 or more. The top of the 10 was hypertension, and then going further down the list, major depression, high cholesterol, coronary artery disease, type 2 diabetes, substance use disorder, alcohol use disorder, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, psychotic disorder, Crohn's disease, and ulcerative colitis. Black, Indigenous, people of color are 1.5 to 2 times more likely to develop many of these major chronic health conditions. Diabetes, lung disease, and serious heart conditions have been particularly relevant to COVID-19 risk. A 2020 study by Johns Hopkins found that chronic stress can weaken immunity, making BIPOC communities more vulnerable to diseases like COVID-19 and the underlying health conditions that increase the risk for COVID-19. Unresolved emotional pain, trauma, significantly increases risk for impaired immunity. Historic, transgenerational, present-day oppression add to daily social, economic, work-life, partner, family, social community, environment related stressors. Experiences of income disparity, inequality, injustice, prejudice, discrimination, violence, and systemic racism, as well as cultural and ancestral transgenerational trauma, add to these stressors. According to multiple studies, unresolved or unhealed emotional pain and trauma also increase chronic health condition risk for future generations. So, healing, the need to heal. Ancient cultures understood the holistic nature of emotional pain, wounding, and trauma, and created interventions to regularly release experiences that would otherwise impact the health of the person and the community. Healing space was regularly created in relationship via ritual and ceremony. Personal lineages, family, ancestors were included in the work for healing across past, present, and future generations. This was spiritual, but in the context of mind, body, heart, soul, our spirit manifest, spirit as form. Relationship, including nature, maintained balance and restored the community. Health, well-being, and vitality, prosperity was dependent on healing relationship. It is important that Black, Indigenous, and people of color are encouraged to heal with methods that have the context of relationship that is still very integral to our way of being. We need the therapies that address our unique needs and are in alignment and validate Native, ancestral, indigenous experiences, cultures, ways of being and healing, and worldviews. Many BIPOC originate from a relationship paradigm that includes person, family, community, the land, the cosmos, multiple planes and dimensions. Historically, though in the United States and Western world, ancestral indigenous experiences have been pathologized as different from the norm. My dissertation research actually examined the disproportionate diagnosis rate of schizophrenia among African Americans and contextualized the associated symptoms with cultural, spiritual, and chronic stress, trauma paradigms. At the core of my one-to-one and group work is helping people heal from oppression, subjugation, and systemic racism, particularly addressing the chronic stress. Whether it's daily stressors or the results of systemic issues of oppression and racism. Emotional wounding, trauma, the chronic health conditions, and weakened immunity, particularly devastating the BIPOC communities. I also facilitate general community groups to address factors that contribute to oppressive beliefs and behaviors, including unresolved emotional wounding and trauma. This combined approach contributes to healing of individuals and the collective, humanity. So if you would like to learn more about my work or are interested in personal healing of the transgenerational trauma, personal trauma, of healing from oppression for you, family, or your community, or even organization, I am able to contribute and help with that work. So if you'd like to learn more, you may visit my website at mylivingsanctuary.org, or you can reach out to me through DM on any of my social media platforms as well. So thank you, and I look forward to hearing from you.